The federal government said it recovered over 83 billion naira, $609 million and 5.4 million euros in liquid assets between 2017 and 2023, following the introduction of the whistleblowing policy by the immediate past administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. It also disclosed that all recoveries were lodged in the FGN Assets Recovery Account maintained by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation and domiciled in the Central Bank of Nigeria. Finance Minister Wale Edun has called on members of the National Assembly to support President Tinubu's drive to reenact the whistleblowing policy into law. Arise correspondent Mary Chinda reports.
Since its introduction in December 2016 by former Finance Minister Kemi Adeosun, the whistleblowing policy has become less popular following a myriad of public misconceptions. This is why the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, is calling for its full implementation.
Permit me to state that it is our collective responsibility to create an environment where the Nigerian people, the Nigerian populace feel confident and protected in reporting unethical, illegal, untoward, wrong practices that can jeopardize the interests of all, that can jeopardize the development of our country that we so earnestly seek.
It's a one-day sensitization workshop on the implementation of whistleblowing policy in Nigeria, issues, challenges, and ways forward, put together by the Ministry of Finance.
The successful whistleblowing policy involves receiving verifiable reports, conducting thorough investigations to authenticate them, and taking appropriate action to enforce compliance with the law. We are committed to implement the present government's agenda to the letter, and therefore no stone would be left unturned to ensure that a legal framework is put in place to drive the implementation of the policy.
The whistleblowing policy, since its inception in December 2016, has proved to be one of the veritable tools in uncovering corrupt practices within the public and private sectors. It has empowered citizens to report to the relevant authorities about identified misappropriation of public funds and other fraudulent activities.
The lack of protection of whistleblowers reporting corrupt practices is one of the many challenges making the policy unpopular.
With the reward system, you can be convinced that the government is serious about it. Even so, some people have refused to embrace the policy for the fear that doing so will expose them to unimaginable dangers.
The ministry is set to roll out a 5-year plan to encourage whistleblowers, help fight against corruption, fraud, and theft in the public service. Mary Chinda, Arise News.
Well, this morning we discussed the whistleblowing policy, hopefully making it or passing it into law or have legislation back it. Your take on this story, Rufai?
So for me, it's a good policy where you have people, as the word implies, blow the whistle when they see anything untoward. But Nigeria is a very interesting country, and that's what saddens me. We now live in a country where people that actually blow the whistle on the shenanigans of government are imprisoned. And they are touted to be blackmailers. So I don't know where to draw the line. In fact, one of the first famous cases of whistleblowing that happened was the $43 million Ikoyi thing. Osborne. You remember how that case ended? They now said, oh, it was the NIA, it was for covert operations. EFCC had to withdraw that case from courts on national security grounds. So the question is, we don't even understand where the lines are blurred any longer. Because some people you will call whistleblowers that also leak very important details for the benefit of the people are put in jail. So we don't know what to say. It's a good policy. It will bring about a great deal of accountability. They are saying they've recovered some amount. It's not today they always say they've recovered XYZ amount from whistleblowing. About 3-4 years, they said, oh, whistleblowing has even saved them over 500 and something billion. They can bandy around the numbers. But also, what about the rights of the whistleblower? Is the portion allotted to them, is it being paid as it went due? Because we also remember somebody that leaked something the other day. It had to be a media scandal before they paid him that amount. They claimed they were going to pay him initially. And then other whistleblowers are being touted as blackmailers and they're thrown in jail. And in all of this, it's without recourse to the role of the Human Rights Commission in this country, because we don't even know what is going on. Journalists are also whistleblowers, but when they blow the whistle on this scandal, we know how they are treated. You remember the journalist the other day, because he revealed something about somebody close to government, he was bandied away, the journalist of First Post.
All right.
So we don't know where to draw the line.
All right, Dr. Batin.
Okay, the big challenge that I think exists is the opaqueness in the operation of the various stakeholders that are involved in the whistleblowing policy that was introduced on December 21, 2016 by the Buhari administration. Opaqueness, because even the report that has been given that they have recovered $60 million, 83 billion naira, 5.6 trillion, 5.4 million euros, doesn't give us the complete picture. To the extent that, they're just talking about money that was recovered. How about immovable assets? Because we were told in the course of this period that they are giving an account, Yusuf Sule was the person speaking primarily yesterday to give a report. Between 2017 and 2023, that this is how much money they recovered, and that the money is with the central bank being managed by the office of the accountant general. All of that, even the mention of the office of the accountant general of the federation, will raise eyebrows. So there is that opaqueness. I think we need to be given more information, particularly about the immovable assets, all the houses that were seized, all the physical structures that government purportedly got back. The second point will have to be about the protection of whistleblowers. When the policy was launched in 2016, December, we were told that whistleblowers will get between 2.5 to 5% of access that they revealed. The whole idea was to involve the public in the protection of Nigerian assets, to allow Nigerians to take ownership of the anti-corruption process. But Yusuf Sule and Mr. Wale Edun both made the point yesterday that Nigerians, have become very silent. They've become very lukewarm about the policy. Yes, because of the lack of transparency and accountability, and the fact that some of the whistleblowers were badly treated. They didn't get, the 2.5 to 5% that they got. But the money that was recovered from the Osborne Tower, 16 Osborne Road, that we were told was recovered, they told us that the man who blew the whistle got 421 million. But apart from that, we don't have any major classic case that is out there in the public domain. And the other thing, basically about the protection, is that many people know the way Nigeria is, that when you say you are blowing the whistle, some other people will benefit from it. Who are the people who got part of the immovable assets? Who benefited? So you are fighting corruption, you are benefiting from corruption. Finally, the point about legislative framework. There's no legal framework for this same policy that has been on the ground since December 2016. The Tinubu administration wants to fast-track it and get the 10th Assembly to pass the legal framework, the bill on it. So I think that is a positive development. The 9th Assembly did not pass the bill. More importantly, many Nigerians will be pleased that the Tinubu administration is beginning to take the fight against corruption seriously. And perhaps he will probably do a better job with all the gray areas, the opaqueness, the challenges that we have identified.
All right, with regards to a legal framework, it's important to note that Nigeria is not the only country with a whistleblowing policy. In fact, very famously in South Africa, in 2001, we had the Protected Disclosures Act, number 26 of 2000, and which came into play, and that provides a legal framework, a legal backing for the policy. This is what the Tinubu administration is trying to push. They're not the first administration to do so. Right from President Muhammadu Buhari, recall that he came on the strong mandate of fighting corruption. And so part of that demonstration of his commitment to fighting corruption was the introduction of this whistleblowing policy. Now, a number of things that would make it work before it is embarked. By the way, it's important to note from the 8th, 9th Assembly, they tried to pass it under the 8th Assembly, but unfortunately it didn't get past the second reading. It was stopped at the House of Representatives level. The 9th Assembly as well, it failed, and now it has been rejigged by this administration and being passed on as well. Hopefully, this will see the light of day. What does this do? It primarily protects the interest of the whistleblower, because what we've seen in some instances is that the whistleblower is then victimized, and in some cases, they lose their jobs. Or if they're identified, as has been said, they become, there will be reprisals, and then their fears and concerns around what the consequence of whistleblowing would be. So that legislature would do that. And that would also help perhaps to determine what the money will be used for. Talking about opacity, we look at the fact that the monies that have been recovered that we talk about, they sound good. But then when you ask what are those monies or those amounts of monies used for? What are they then channeled towards, so that the looted funds are not relooted, which is the case in many areas where we talk about loots that are recovered. And so perhaps I would strengthen the case for people coming out to support the efforts of the government to fight corruption, and even in organizations in the public service, is number one, ensure confidentiality of the whistleblower. Number two, ensure that the rewards are paid as and when due. Number three is to ensure that assets, or what is done with the assets, are publicly, made public so that people know. Just to emphasize the fact that what has been announced in the report is just the liquid assets. We want to know as well what happened to the other assets. Were they sold? Were they monetized? Do they make up the numbers that have been, given? So just those things would really help to strengthen this policy.